The most frustrating lie going around our fan base right now is that this front office is too completely broke to pull off a blockbuster trade. They absolutely have the financial firepower to bring a total game wrecker like Dexter Lawrence to the Windy City, and the proof is hiding right in plain sight. Today, we are tearing apart this ridiculous salary cap myth and exposing the real truth behind these massive defensive line trade rumors. If you want the absolute best, unfiltered football coverage every single day, do me a quick favor and smash that like button, share this with a fellow fan, and hit subscribe right now. Let us jump straight into the madness because I am losing my mind watching fans and even some media members push this narrative. Have you actually looked at how an NFL front office manipulates money when they want to win a championship? That is the question you need to ask yourself every time someone cries about our salary cap. The idea that this team cannot make a massive trade because they supposedly have no money is a complete and utter fabrication. It is a myth, plain and simple, and it needs to stop right now. I hear the panic every single day. People are screaming that we only have roughly $200,000 in available space right now. Well, let us use some basic common sense here. Do you honestly believe this organization is going to pay their entire incoming draft class with $250,000? Absolutely not. It is going to cost anywhere between $4 and $6 million, maybe even more depending on how they maneuver the draft board. They have to create that money. It is mandatory. And guess what? If a front office can magically clear millions of dollars just to sign rookies, they can absolutely do the exact same thing to acquire a proven superstar, whether that is signing a free agent or pulling off a blockbuster trade. This isn't just everyday fans either. Look at the recent comments from reporters like Dan Wiederer, who actually brought some great insight on the Maxx Crosby situation that we will dive into shortly. But when he was asked about the possibility of trading for Dexter Lawrence, his response was basically asking how on earth the team could clear enough cap space to seriously consider it. Again, this is lazy analysis. It is a myth that takes about 2 seconds to debunk. We have been talking about this exhausting topic all off-season long, and the math has never changed. If this general manager wants to clear space, he can do it in his sleep. There are roughly 10 players currently on this roster whose contracts could be restructured right this very second to create a mountain of cash. Think about the names. You restructure Montez Sweat, and you instantly clear almost $10 million. Joe Thuney gets you over $7.5 million. Dayo Odeyingbo frees up another $7.4 million, though honestly, I would avoid doing that one because restructuring just kicks the financial can down the road. But the option is there. You move on to Jalen Johnson, that is nearly $7 million. Jonah Jackson, another $6.9 million. Grady Jarrett is in the same boat as Dayo for me. I wouldn't touch it, but you definitely could. Kyler Gordon clears over $6 million. Cole Kmet gets you $4 million. T.J. Edwards offers even more flexibility. If you pulled the trigger on every single one of those guys, poof, you instantly magically create $59 million in spending power. Now, realistically, you do not want to be reckless. You have to be selective and protect the future. You do not want to mortgage the next decade of football. But to sit there and confidently say a blockbuster deal is mathematically impossible is just flat-out false. Then the critics pivot to the contract itself. They scream that you are going to have to pay Dexter Lawrence $30 million. Look at the actual numbers. If you trade for him right now, his cap hit for the acquiring team is only $13 million. $13 million. Even if you rip up his current deal, extend him, and give him a massive pay raise, you can structure it to actually lower his cap hit for this upcoming season. Jacob Infante absolutely nailed this point recently. If you simply restructure Jalen Johnson and Joe Thuney, and I probably wouldn't touch Jalen since he has a massive year ahead of him, so maybe pick someone else. But just 2 standard restructures easily frees up $14.7 million. That completely covers Dexter Lawrence's cap hit with room to spare. Do not let the social media crowd tell you it cannot be done. They can absolutely do it. The real question is simply about priorities. Does the front office value maximum long-term flexibility over an immediate defensive upgrade? I get wanting to keep the books clean. I do not want to restructure 6 guys either. But if tweaking 2 contracts is the only thing standing between this defense and Dexter Lawrence, absolutely. You do that in a heartbeat. That is a no-brainer. That is exactly what elite, championship caliber teams do when they are in a win-now window and smell blood in the water. So I want to hear from every single one of you right now. Should this front office pull the trigger and trade for Dexter Lawrence? Drop a Y for yes or an N for no in the comments below. That is our official question of the day, so get down there and debate. Now, let us talk about why Dexter Lawrence is realistically the biggest, baddest name left on the trade market. Ian Rappaport broke the news recently that Lawrence and the New York Giants are currently stuck at a total contract impasse. Things have gotten so bad that the Giants are actively engaging with other teams regarding a potential trade, and that will continue. Is our front office one of those teams on the phone? The building has been completely silent, so we do not know for sure. Rappaport mentioned that New York intends to use these next few days leading right up to the draft to get a complete, league-wide picture of his trade value. They are testing the waters. My gut tells me they go back to the table with Lawrence's camp one final time to try and salvage the relationship. But if that bridge is totally burned and they get a monster offer, he will be shipped out before the draft even starts. If Ryan Poles and the Brain Trust upstairs march into George McCaskey's office and say this is a golden opportunity to dominate the line of scrimmage, George just needs to authorize the cash. The cap space is a non-issue. It all comes down to whether they want to part with the draft capital, and exactly what the Giants are demanding is still a heavily guarded secret. This brings us to a massive revelation regarding the whole Maxx Crosby saga that had us all going crazy a few weeks ago. We finally have some clarity, again courtesy of Dan Wiederer. Remember that wild rumor floating around? Rich Eisen mentioned on his show that he heard the front office offered Las Vegas 2 first-round draft picks for Crosby. I never bought that for a single second, and now we know why. Wiederer completely shut that down. While there was genuine interest and speculation was running wild, a 2-pick offer never happened. The front office had serious, understandable reservations. They looked at Crosby's age. They looked at the crushing weight of his contract, featuring salary cap hits of over $35 and $38 million over the next 2 years. They looked heavily at his medicals, specifically that meniscus repair surgery he had in January. The general manager is a guy who lives and dies by his established guardrails. He sets a limit, and he does not cross it. When the bidding war for Crosby went past his comfort zone, he completely backed out. Think about it logically. If this team genuinely offered 2 first-rounders, and the deal Crosby's camp wanted elsewhere fell through, the Raiders would have sprinted to the phone to accept our offer. It would have been sitting right there. I firmly believe our actual offer was probably a single first-round pick bundled with a mid-rounder. Maybe D.J. Moore was part of the initial trade package talks before he was shipped off to Buffalo. But 2 firsts? Not a chance. I would never have given up that kind of capital, so I applaud the discipline shown by the front office. When you stack Dexter Lawrence and Maxx Crosby side by side, you are looking at 2 absolute titans of the sport. They are in the exact same elite tier. That is why my price tag for Lawrence is identical to what my maximum limit was for Crosby. I am never giving up 2 first-round picks for either of them because of the massive financial commitment attached. My absolute ceiling is a first-round pick this year and a third-rounder. Could you twist my arm into giving up a second-rounder? Maybe. But that is the absolute limit. If I am forced to choose between the 2, I am actually taking Dexter Lawrence every single time. And I am not just saying that because he is the shiny new toy in the rumor mill. Look at our roster. Our interior defensive tackle rotation is nowhere near as strong as our edge rushing group right now. Having Montez Sweat and Austin Booker on the outside is a highly formidable duo. We need that massive anchor in the middle to completely collapse the pocket and stop the run game dead in its tracks. More importantly, look at the health history. Lawrence has significantly less mileage and wear and tear on his body compared to Crosby. Yes, Lawrence was battling a frustrating elbow issue last year. He had surgery the offseason prior, and it definitely nagged him. But compare that to Crosby, who has dealt with constant knee problems, ankle issues, and a laundry list of soft tissue injuries. Lawrence is a tank. Just look at his track record over the last 4 years. He missed 1 single game in 22, 1 in 23. The elbow cost him 5 games in 24, but then he bounced right back and played all 17 games last season. For a mammoth player fighting in the trenches on every snap, that durability is insane. And his impact. It is terrifying. Critics tried to argue he had a down year recently. Even a down year for Dexter Lawrence is an incredible year for anyone else. The advanced metrics prove that when he steps on the field, opposing offenses completely stall. The team's overall sack rate spikes. You do not get double-teamed over 70% of the time if you are having a bad season. He was triple-teamed more than 7% of the time. The man is a total force of nature. He is completely fed up with the losing culture in New York. The arrival of Harbaugh hasn't been enough to sell him on staying. He wants a fresh start, just like Crosby did before Baltimore balked. So I leave you with this final thought. If the trade compensation was identical, a first and a third, who are you taking? You have two healthy, dominant, 28-year-old defensive linemen. For my money, Lawrence ages better and fills a massive void. I do not think Crosby is leaving Vegas anytime soon, but Lawrence could be packing his bags very soon. Thank you so much for tuning in, stay passionate, and I will see you guys next time.